Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the East Lyme Board of Finance special meeting. Today is Monday, April 7th. The time is 5:31. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is delegations, where any member of the public can address items that are on the agenda this evening. Is there anyone that wanted to address? No? Okay, so then we can move on to new business. This is the continuation of our budget reviews. So when we met last week, we went through a number of departmental budgets and made some changes. We did not get through all the departments, so we can continue, but if my fellow Board of Finance members would indulge me, I kind of gone back through the budget a little bit, and kind of in the spirit of everyone's trying to sacrifice and we're looking for every dollar, I kind of went through and said, I think we can look at all those miscellaneous budgets, line items, and just see if we can't take a little bit more off of that. So with that, with this one, and Kevin, I'm going to just ask you to take a look. So under the first selectmen's budget, the $9,000 in veterans rep expenses, I know that's, I know it got moved over there. I know it's a good thing. I was just wondering where we stood to date on that line item, which is $9,000 now. Is there anything? Anything we could try to shave there?
Let me just pull up services of the community real quick, because I know this past year we had to do we just did a budget transfer for the veterans rep, but I don't believe we had $9,000 in the budget. So let me just pull up what we had last year.
Can you maybe also explain what it is, what's the description of the activity?
So it's the veterans rep drives veterans to either Newington to the Veterans Hospital or the other, and he uses his own vehicle, so he gets mileage reimbursement.
Thank you.
I guess that's one. Oh, you want to speak to it here?
No, I just wanted.
No, you're pulling it up. So it's a fellow. His name is Brian Burridge, and he drives veterans, and if they have doctor's appointments at the Veterans Hospital down in Bridgeport, or if they have to go to Rocky Hill or Newington, he drives them there. Those that can't drive, and that money is to reimburse his mileage. So he drives his own car, and we reimburse him.
And I think it's a great thing. I just
So this current budget year, in 25, there was cuts made. We proposed about $6,000 for Mr. Burridge. It was cut back to $2,640, and we've had to do a budget adjustment. It was in the last tranche of budget transfers. We are billing about $500 a month, so $6,000 is appropriate. I think it was up to $9,000 we put in. Just in case, I wasn't quite sure what the IRS rate for fuel was going to be for mileage reimbursements, but I don't think it's going up 50%. So there might be some wiggle room in that line item.
so maybe take it down 2,000 or 3,000, and that would be,
That would, yeah, the 2024, we spent 5,600. This year it's trending, we're spending right around there. So 7,000 would be good, 6,000 would be tight, but probably workable.
so maybe
Split the difference.
2,500.
Acceptable.
I'd like to make a motion to reduce the veterans rep expenses line item from by 2,500 to 6,500. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions?
That was a yes.
That you're a yes. So the motion carries 6-0. And then I went to the assessor's budget, and their miscellaneous supplies went from 2024 of 4,438 to an adopted budget of 8,100. And I'm just wondering where we are on that, or whether there's, just seemed like they had a big increase. Not sure whether there was a specific.
So the large increase was due to the acquisition of NADA by JD Power, and instead of us buying the books annually, we now have to pay per car. So JD Power has now charges 10 cents for every car lookup we do, and adds $500 a year in annual fees for online services. $40 a lookup, 40 cents a lookup for non-cars. I'm not
So
quite
where
sure.
are we
All right,
at
let's
this
look that
point?
up.
Because we should have through March, so, you know, we're 75% of the way through.
Let's see here. I got it. We spent 4,400. We have 1,500 in encumbrances. 45. That's 15. 6,000. And there's an additional. There's $1,900 remaining in the account. So it's about 75% expended.
All right, so then if it's on track to get there, it doesn't look like we can do anything. So then on to the tax collector, also miscellaneous expense. You know, first selectman reduced it 250. I think we can take it down another 250 and leave it, because that's an 8.33% increase now, and
We said tax collector, correct?
yes.
So tax collector has a $3,000 budget. Keep in mind, for everyone on the board and at home, the town's been under a spending freeze, so we're really trying to keep these departments from spending.
Mhm.
So of the $3,000 budget line, we have, James, you want to switch the screen over? We spent $1,144. There's $770 encumbered with $1,000 left.
So I think we can.
3,000 is probably reasonable.
I'd like to make a motion to reduce that 3,250 by $250, bring that down to 3,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Question, so if I'm reading in the line item for 56100, that's the right line item, is that right?
Mhm.
It says they are adding a digital lock to the vault? and a DMV subscription. That was not paid last year, so I assume those are new expenses this year?
You know, I don't know off the top of my head. That description was the same year over year. Because that I remember the last year we had a discussion about that digital lock. I haven't. I don't know if it's digitalized or not. I'm trying to think. Just looking. I don't know. I can't imagine that would be more than a couple $100 though. So, Rich?
Yes. So that 8.33%, is that off the 3,500 or the 3,250? Because the first selectman and the board of selectmen had already taken 250 off.
That was off the 3250.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yeah, 3250. If it was off the 3500, it'd be like 16.8% or something.
Okay, and could you repeat the numbers for what the spend has been this year?
Sure. So if everyone just give me 1 sec. Let me just cancel out of this real quick so there's no sensitive information. Okay.
And I know these are small dollars, but I think it's, you know, we're looking for every last one.
So I asked for suggestions in my finance office and said, okay, well, any outside of the box thinking, and someone said, cut $10 from every line. There's 840 lines here. That'll save you $8,400. So I said, okay, I didn't think about that.
Of course, it'd take you 5 hours to do that.
Yeah. So real quick, if we look at this, the tax collector's office supply account, we're really looking for, I know it's, hold on, Rich, I'll zoom in for you guys over there. So really, we're looking all the way over here to the right, fiscal year 25. We're looking at this column right here, okay? So the budget was $3,000. We have spent year to date $1,144.59. We have open encumbrances, you know, obligations to buy or pay for things of $776. There's $1,000 left over in that account.
And we have a quarter left.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And how long have we been in a freeze?
Since January,
I would say.
mid-January, sometime in
Oh, okay.
January, I believe.
Okay.
It is a non-discretionary, discretionary spending freeze, not non-discretionary. But if you know, if someone needs to renew their membership, you know, they'll come either to Dan's office or my office, and we'll go to Dan's office together, and just kind of work through that if it's actually needed.
Okay.
So it's kind of a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
We're talking about a $500 decrease or a $250?
$250 from its current $3,250.
So it's bringing it to 3,000.
Correct.
Oh, yes.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No, motion carries 600. And then I had under human resources, looking, potential $500 decrease in net miscellaneous supplies. 2024 actual was 1,186, and currently 3/4 of the way through the year, we are
We've spent $1,845. We have encumbrances of $200, requisitions of $100, available balance of about $840.
Seems like you could do the same.
I was thinking $500. Bring it back to the 3,000.
Do you want to look at the employee background check line? That line, so we have been in a hiring freeze. Let's just see.
2,500, sorry.
I know it's all encumbered because it's the same vendor, but that's a line we could probably cut down to ourselves short, because I know there's a lot of people looking for jobs right now, but 2,500, 2,250.
Now you're talking about 56115 line.
Correct, employee background, just to
Yeah.
kind of
So,
spread the pain between those two lines.
Are there no terminations or retirements that you are aware of?
So right now, so if this budget were to, pass as it is, we'd be hiring 2 additional firefighters, a town engineer. We'd be hiring another grounds maintainer. We currently have openings for building official, part-time building official, and a couple police officers. So
What's the cost per background check, please?
let me just shut this off so there's no names real quick. I think it depends. I believe the police have to go through a much more robust background check process. Let me just double click on this. It looks like 326 is the highest we've paid. Let me just see if that's multiple background checks. I believe it is.
Seems like you listed 6 or 7 different items that need background checks.
but some of those positions are still under discussion, so.
So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 background checks at 326. $65 each, roughly.
1650.
Okay. Did you say 68.50 exactly?
You said 326 times 5 to 5 is about 15.
You went to the penny on that one. I was just impressed. I was impressed with how quick that came out, because I was over here in my head counting my fingers. So I guess it depends, because some of them are a little more advanced than others. But I think that's,
So it sounds to me like we could take $250 from both employee background checks and miscellaneous supplies. So I'd like to make a motion to.
Denise?
Yep.
Before you make the motion?
Sure.
I'm just wondering, in 2024, the dues were 0. I can understand that we've got a director now instead of a manager, that could stay at 250 for her dues.
so anything hold on here, let me look. I don't have dues at 0. I have dues, the actual for dues being 200.
For 2024?
Yeah.
Okay. Mine has it at 0. Okay. And then for the professional conventions, conferences, what do you have for that?
250 as well. I can go to my archived accounting system here. I know she is a member of Sherma, something.
Yeah. that sounds
There's
right.
a HR
Yep.
group,
Professional.
and there's one locally for this area too. I know our HR manager is a part of. It's gonna take a while to fire up.
Well, okay, I'll just give my thoughts while you're firing up over there. I can see the dues in the SHRM. The professional convention conference, I'm not sure that that's a necessity. And I would imagine that the transportation allowance of $100 is to get to the convention conference. Or is that for something else?
That's probably for that.
So in my mind, we could save $350 there without doing any damage.
And I appreciate that thought, but I think, it is a career that rules and regulations are constantly changing, and there is a lot of valuable information to be had. I don't know whether there's, whether it could be replicated through our CCM, or, you know, whether they cover human resource type things. I just, you know, our human resource department is so new. I'd hate to see it take a step back because they're not able to keep up with changing regulations. That's, I don't know, Dan, if you have any thoughts there.
Well, I will say that, you know, HR is a mercurial discipline, and the laws are always changing. It's important to be current. It's also important to be respected by your peers in that realm. And so I think going to the conferences is important. And also, you know, I can say that our director does bring back a lot of vital information to us. And I must say I'm always impressed at how current our current director is with being on top of where things are going. So given our environment and what we've been facing, I think it's important to bolster up our HR director any way we can.
I tend to agree with that. I think, you know, right now the administration's making a lot of changes that are impacting towns and lots of private institutions. I feel like you need to stay on top of it.
So, I think, why don't I just first make the motion on reducing the employee background checks by $250 and the miscellaneous supplies by $250. And then we can, because I feel like that one was kind of everyone, so I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So-
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Kevin, you said it might be more for public service related background checks?
Yeah.
Is that, how sure of you are that?
96.25%. 3.75. No, I do know there is an additional cost. I don't know the exact cost. And maybe if when the police officer is watching, they could text me, or Stacy. But I know they have to go through a more rigorous background check at the national level. I don't believe everyone has to. I believe for an individual, and I know Jerry has a lot of people that get background checks, so maybe he would know. But for some of these individuals, it looks like everyone or most people get a DMV records check, and then certain people get the more expensive $58 federal criminal check. Then there's a multi-jurisdictional criminal background check, Social Security, past address trace background check, statewide criminal check. So they go through, some of these people are going through 6 different checks, and I have an individual here that's went through 3. So they're not all created equal. But they're not all, you know, all background checks aren't equal. I guess it depends if they're with, I just know the police are much more rigorous background check.
But based on our experience through the year here, it looks like we've got that room.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at 2024, we spent $1,500 on employee background checks. So we are trending up because I think we've already spent, what, $1,088. But I still think that account has some room in it.
So it sounds like even if these more rigorous background checks are a real thing that is going to cost more, we're still going to be able to manage it.
I think so.
Thank you.
I think so.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor of reducing employee background checks by $250 and reducing miscellaneous supplies by $250 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Motion carries. And then, Rich, I don't know whether you
I
wanted...
withdraw.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else there? Town clerk. And, you know, I looked at Miscellaneous supplies there, 2024 actual was 2,239. So I was thinking that in the proposed 2,800, I'm thinking it could be reduced by perhaps 300 if we haven't, significantly exceeded this year's budget there.
So far, we spent $1,500. We have 1,058 encumbered. There's about $250 left in that account. But when we say $250 left, when we say encumbered, these could be blanket purchase orders. So if we have that goes for all of those accounts, right? We encourage the town hall employees, if they make purchases to W.B. Mason, Staples, Amazon, one of these vendors, and you're going to make purchases throughout the year, encumber what you think you are going to spend throughout the year in a purchase order, so you can hold those funds. Right? Does that make sense for everybody? So that there are obligations outstanding, but that doesn't mean they've procured $1,058 worth of the supply so far. That was just a general housekeeping item across the board, not just for the town clerk, Karen.
Yep.
Mrs. Galbo.
Well, now that I'm like really reading this, it does say on 56115 that's dog licenses and ballots.
Correct.
And if we are gonna be doing more early voting, might that require an increased number of ballots?
Sounds separate from miscellaneous supplies.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. It is. I just didn't want you until you made your motion.
So I know there's a registrar here behind me. Maybe she would speak to the purchasing of ballots, because I do know it is in, or I think it is in, the registrar's budget to buy a ballot. Where'd you go? Yep.
Because I originally thought it was actually a ball for the dog. That's when I first looked at it.
Ran out of characters.
Because my dog needs a ball.
So Wendy Sims, East Lyme. The town clerk purchases absentee ballots. So those are the ballots that she will be purchasing. She purchases absentee ballots under her budget, and we purchase early voting, same-day registration, election day.
How many early voting? How many absentee ballots does she buy? It can't be that many.
It depends. Now with no excuse absentee balloting, we're not exactly sure how many more absentees will be used now that the excuses are removed. So that's a little bit up in the air. There's also, should be taken into account that we have to change our ballot provider. Our previous ballot provider no longer will be providing ballots for our new voting machines. So we have been, town clerk and registrar's office have been in the process of deciding. There's 2 vendors we can use, and we've been talking to other town clerks and registrars to try to see the most cost-effective way to purchase ballots. So we should be making a decision soon, but it looks like with either one, the cost will go up.
Of course, for this budget, it's just the municipal election.
It is the municipal election, and it is next year's referendum. Next year's budget referendum. That will be on the upcoming.
Yeah. But so 2 elections that don't end up getting a huge turnout.
For our municipal elections, we usually get between 40 and 45%. We're not sure if that turnout will increase due to the availability of early voting, especially at the community center. People come in, we could increase that turnout. We're required to purchase a set amount, minimum amount from the Secretary of State's office, so there's not really, we have statutes. we have to buy what we have to buy.
Okay, thank you, Wynn.
So I don't know if that answered your question, Scott, but I think
Well, I don't
she's
know.
counted for those absentee ballots in there.
So I guess I'm reluctant to speculate that that could be reduced based on everything that just got said, so I think I would leave that item alone.
Okay. And, but it sounds like they're also on track in miscellaneous supplies for the 2,800, so much for that one. IT, again, this is a, so the miscellaneous supplies and IT, went up significantly. And I think that had, it's computer components, maintenance items, a lot of UPS battery replacements. I'm just thinking that perhaps, going from the actual expense of 2,000 up to the 34,800, I'm thinking we could reduce that by like the 4,800. I know Dan is doing a great job, but
So I know, Mr. Cleary, I'm working with you, I promise. So last year, the townwide computer replacements, we had 15,000 set aside. Dan Cleary did come to Dan and I to tell us that is too low. It should be in the $35,000 to $40,000 range to replace computers on a 5-year cycle. I don't believe I don't know what the cycle has been previously, but we're going from 15 to about, he put in the CIP 35, we counted with 28, so that's almost 100% increase year over year for computer replacements. So if the following year we get him a little more closer to his goal, I think we're making good progress. It just wasn't all in 1 year. So anything more than the 15 plus the 8,000 he had there, anything more than 23 is an improvement in that line.
so
And I'm not sure the impact to the tariffs and everything else. So, but I just wanted that to be known because I know that question was coming somewhere.
well,
So
you can buy these TVs these days for like $400
Couple $100.
that cost 4,000 years ago. So
Yep.
I've got to believe that we can find
shop around.
some good computer deals. I'd like to make a motion to reduce the miscellaneous supplies in the IT budget from 34,800 by 4,800 to a final of 30,000, which is, like you say, still an increase.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Comments? No?
Just a quick question. So just to be reassured that there's no public safety or cybersecurity risk here by cutting this down.
According to the bean counter, take that for what it's worth. Not that I'm aware of. I believe the real push here for purchasing new computers is to get us on a rotating replacement cycle in the 5 to 7 year range. This will push it out, probably closer to that 7 year range. I do know Dan will be replacing Dan Cleary. Well, this is tough with two Dan C's. But IT Dan C is looking to replace the computers. I think he mentioned in the Board of Selectmen, because he wasn't at this one, but Board of Selectmen, there's computers that are aging out of support from Microsoft, and now they're charging, I think it's like $60 a computer per month. So our goal is to get those computers out the door faster, so we still have in-service customer support for those computers. So that's the push there.
Sounds like a no.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything like, endpoint security or any security functions. It's just the purchasing new laptops. So I think it's more of a hardware line.
Yeah, monitors, keyboards, mice, hard drives, batteries.
Yes, Denise?
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned tariffs, and we've seen prices go up tremendously very quickly. Most of the electronics we get are from abroad and are from targeted nations. And I just get worried that we don't know what that line is going to be. And we've heard from the Board of Ed that they're on I believe, a 4-year cycle for replacements of computers. The town is on a 5 to 7 year cycle. So we're stressing things by being a little bit longer to begin with. And I know it's a significant amount of money, but for my mind, in the uncertainty of the electronics field right now, I just soon leave it where it's at.
All right, so any further discussion? Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of reducing the budget $4,800 for miscellaneous supplies down to $30,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1-0. So then, registrars, we had a discussion about election day expenses, and we had voted to move, what was it, 26,400 to contingency, thinking that perhaps we won, but in the midst of the conversation, Wendy also had texted Kevin, but we didn't, and so we sort of said, oh, well, I guess we'll probably have to move it back from contingency, but we didn't formally take a vote on that, so just wanted to make that motion to offset the action we took the other night and restore the, I believe it was the election day expenses line item, correct? Back to 53,900.
So if the motion could be to reverse, or to move the 26,400 out of contingency back to election day expenses, just so I can do the double-sided.
Yes. That's what I just moved.
Beautiful, perfect.
Do I have a
Can we
second?
Second.
Second discussion?
Can we just get the rationale again, please?
That they were, the registrars were very much assured that there was going to be all of the extended election days, that they did not feel that any actions by the current administration to go to same-day voting would be in effect this year.
Okay, thank you.
Denise. Scott, are you finished?
Yes, thanks.
Oh, okay. For the last municipal elections, what was the turnout?
Yes, please, Wendy.
Because I remember them always being very low.
So our average, I'll say again, our average municipal turnout is between 40 and 45%. Last municipal turnout, it was closer to 45%. And just to clarify what you said, Denise, this is for early voting. There was the GAE committee, the Government Administration and Elections Committee, the committee who deals with election law, they opted not to act on reducing any of our early voting days. So we will have 14 days of early voting for the municipal, and that's what that $26,000 was for, the early voting days. They did not act on that this year to reduce it because, Scott, I believe you mentioned in last Tuesday's meeting, we were told by the head of the GAE committee that they were not going to reduce days. They wanted to study it through even and odd year election cycle before get better data. So we will be doing 14 days of early voting. Any bills to shorten it died. Their deadline was Friday, so I checked the bill tracking report and all those bills are dead. So that's what we're doing. But so yes, Rich, last municipal it was close to 45% turnout. It usually stays between, for as I've been here, 19, 21, 23. It's usually 42 to 45%. Some years it dips down to 40, but we're not sure exactly how having 14 days of early voting, especially at the community center where people come and go, we're not sure how much that could possibly increase voter turnout in municipal elections, plus with the addition of no excuse absentee balloting.
Okay. And last year's elections did have early voting, but at a shorter time frame.
There were 14 days of early voting for 14 days of early voting for every general election. So for every November election, there are 14 days of early voting. Last year we had a presidential primary that was 4 days of early voting. We also had a state primary in August. Regular primaries are 7 days. Presidential primaries are 4 days. Special elections are 4 days of early voting. Regular primaries are 7 days. And every November election, which we call a general election, is 14 days. Clear as mud.
Okay. So last year, were you in a deficit and need to go into contingency to pay for the election expenses?
Kevin?
We did also have, don't forget, we had a early voting grant.
Yes. We had
Right,
an
so-
initial grant of $10,500 that the state gave to every municipality at the start of the year to kind of, because there was a lot of initial equipment we had to purchase. And then for the general election, we got a grant, I want to say it was 54 or 5,600,
5,500, I think, maybe?
somewhere
Yeah.
in that area from the state to help offset our early voting expenses. We're not sure if we will get anything. There was nothing in the governor's proposed budget, but the final budget deliberations are just really now getting into the nitty-gritty, so we're not sure what we're going to get.
Okay. So that's a total of $16,000 in grants that you had
Last
year. And
Mhm.
so when we're talking last year, we're talking 2024 actual expense or the approved?
Kind of both.
20?
Because our presidential primary was on the 23-24 budget year. The August, I think it was a U.S. Senate primary, that was on the 24-25 budget, and then regular election day early voting, that was on this current budget, not the proposed budget.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. That motion carries. Thank you, Wendy. Didn't have anything for judge of probate. one thing I was just, overall, before we go much further, Dan and Kevin, can you tell me exactly what open positions we have right now?
Right now there's chief building official, full-time, 2 part-time building officials. We are down 2 firemen. So firefighter 11 and firefighter 10, soon to be. We have 2 firemen that gave their notice. Okay, we will be down in the next month 1 police officer. We are down 1 admin in the highway, public works, water and sewer kind of combination. So I would consider that like 0.33 full-time equivalent, so to speak. It's kind of split up amongst multiple offices. And I'm not sure the status of filling that position. I don't think that there's, still kind of working on the needs of that. There is, with the retirement of one of the administrative assistants in the Park and Rec office, the idea was to convert that to a groundskeeper, or a grounds crew member. So there's a full-time grounds job open, fiscal 26, not 25 though, just so. Does that make sense? Who am I missing, Dan?
Police officers.
Got the cops, got the firefighters, not firemen. In August, we will be down a custodian, 30-hour full-time
And the custodian is,
in building maintenance.
that's why I had this highlighted, because I thought that there was gonna be
I don't know what the status is of, I know there's like a kind of a in-process works to shuffle around some custodian hours and things like that, but it hasn't been finalized yet. I believe there's another custodian leaving sometime in the summertime, but I don't believe that individual's given written notice yet, which is one of the requirements. Are we down any highway guys right now? We might be down a highway guy, TBD. Oh, town engineer. The town engineer position. And then the social worker at Youth and Family Services. Oh, they just keep popping up. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Just going department by department in my head. I think
Yes.
that's it.
you know, obviously, one of my thought processes here is as we go through, we've had sort of this hiring freeze, and, how are we holding up through it, and can we get by without filling all of these positions? And if so, what would your,
Should we go position by position, because some are different than others, really?
yeah, and so I'll put that out there as to what I'm thinking, and then as we sort of go through the departmental, I'll,
Yeah, why don't we just go through the
yeah.
department
But-
by department
But
and,
that's sort of where I was going with it, so
yeah,
that
then
you
we'll
understand that.
decide
Okay.
as we move through it.
So under the maintenance of town buildings, do we think that there's something we can do with, the custodian or overtime line item there? If we have a,
So, are we down 1 or 2?
We're not down anyone currently.
But we're
in
gonna
the
be,
maintenance
right?
town buildings. We have an individual that's identified himself as retiring, I believe, the first week of August. So I don't know what the exact plan is. Joe Bergal, the Public Works Director, oversees that department, along with the supervisor of the building maintenance, Ron Benz. What I can do is, depending on everyone's appetite, we could put an agenda item, so I can, because I know I don't believe they were here today, but I can send them an email, ask them what their plan is for the department, submit it, and then hash out that particular one on Wednesday if there's appetite.
Well, I suspect they're gonna say that they're going to replace, so.
Yeah, I know Jerry can, I know, on the community center side, there's 2 individuals, in the building maintenance staff at the community center, and they're always running up against the clock to
Right.
set up for, because they do, I guess it's a little
Yeah.
more on the maintenance, they set up for the events and things like that too, to some degree. So, and I know this particular individual works at town hall, so, and there's only one, so I'm not quite sure what the plan is. I imagine it's probably a replacement at the same.
Community center is key, because they're setting up for events, and I'd be cautious on, curtailing their resource.
So I will just pull up that budget real quick.
Yeah.
Just make sure there's no name real quick.
I mean, I know we spoke about the rest of the budget the other night, so I don't mean to belabor it, but I just, as we're going through,
Yeah.
if
Here we go.
you've identified that, oh, potentially,
So we have, we have 6 building maintainers, I call them, and then we have the 7th position is the assistant supervisor that was added, I believe, last year at 30 hours, and then this year it's increasing to 40. So that's kind of why there's a little 5% increase here. It's the increase of this individual's hours. So one of these individuals that's working a 30-hour-a-week job is retiring. Whether we budget for that position 28 hours to eliminate benefits, that could be a savings. Just a thought to, I don't think you can get rid of it completely, but I would, I don't want to speak for Joe and Ron.
Did you say, just so I understand, that there's an assistant custodial supervisor and a regular custodial supervisor?
Correct.
And what's the difference in their function?
I don't know.
It says the assistant, on the documents, it says the assistant custodial supervisor, if that's what that is referring to, participates in building maintenance. It doesn't talk about the other position. Is that just like a supervisor of the group, maybe?
I think the building supervisor supervises the assistant supervisor who might supervise the staff. Not quite sure the breakdown there in that department of responsibilities.
But last year, the assistant supervisor was added for some reason. Maybe, no? Maybe we should table this until we get to the actual
I'm going to shut the
department in.
check here. I can't remember if it was 25 or 24.
how about,
He was in here last year. The assistant was in here last year. It was the year before it was added, so it was 24. Fiscal 24, that position was added.
So how about we, if you are okay with this, is if you reach out to Joe and just say, we're really looking, you've got this retirement upcoming, we need to find some savings, and how could you do it in that budget area?
Okay.
And then need to make sure we then address it, because I think we'll have, after our regular meeting Wednesday, which should be very light on agenda items, so it'll be more of this. So then I think we need to continue to save general government miscellaneous and benefits until the rest of the things there. We finished with services to the community.
Denise,
Yep,
could I mention something about the services to community?
sure.
As I had mentioned last time, the Main Street organization was supposed to have done some things in Flanders, and they had received 2 tranches of ARPA funding, one for a $30,000 grant that provided for the Yale study, or I forget the name that they...
Yale
Charette, which essentially was limited to Niantic. And there were things from our ARPA awards that were supposed to have gone up to Flanders, and specifically they received $39,000 out of a $75,000 request from the ARPA money, $22,000 to enhance arts in Flanders and Niantic, $12,000 for streetscape improvements in Flanders, $5,000 for signs. I don't know that there's any evidence that anything was done in Flanders. And so in light of receiving $69,000 in ARPA funding, I don't know that we need to give another $2,500 to Main Street this year. I've asked you in the past, Kevin, if the awards to the nonprofits, if we have gotten reports back as to the activities that were performed in response to receiving those grants, because I think that was one of the specifications in awarding the grant, that we would hear back that the money was spent properly.
We did hear back from the majority of them. I don't know off the top of my head if we heard back from Main Street. I do have a line to Sue Kumro, so I will reach out to her and
Okay.
again accounting that money. It was 69,000, Rich?
No, it was a $39,000 grant, and just that there were some things that were specific to Flanders that, to my eyes, I haven't seen anything has been done there.
So that was the total they received of the ARPA, was 39?
The total was the $30,000 grant under Mr. Nickerson's administration, and then under Mr. Series' administration there was a $39,000 grant.
So a total of 69?
69.
The 30 of that was for the Yale Charette study? Or is
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 30 of the 39, do you have a breakdown of what that was supposed to go to Flanders? I think you said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can repeat that.
12,000.
$22,000 to enhance arts in Flanders and Niantic. So how much to Flanders? I'm not sure. $12,000 for streetscape improvements in Flanders.
Specifically in Flanders?
Yes. $5,000 for signs. I think that was supposed to be signage around highways and exits.
Wayfinder,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. And that's the specifics that I have from the documentation.
So that was all for Sand. So 12K, streetscape for Flanders, 5,000 in signs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm assuming was the enhancement for arts, was that 1111? Was there a breakdown of that? Because you said Flanders and Niantic for that.
I have no idea. I just am going by the table that was at the end of the report.
Okay.
But I think if we're going through each department's miscellaneous funds and cutting dollars here and there and seeing if we can potentially take things from background checks, et cetera, to me this seems like there's $2,500 right there.
Jerry, I think you might have something you can add to the conversation.
Yes, thank you. Jerry Locken, the Parks and Rec Director. I just wanted to chime in a little bit on the $2,000 operational money for Niantic Main Street. I think the ARPA things are kind of a standalone type project. Every year, though, annually, there are operational expenses that we partner with Niantic Main Street on dozens of events throughout the year with the road races, the tree lighting, the buoys on the bay, just all kinds of things, the watering of plants on Main Street that their volunteers take care of. So I just want to make sure that people you separate the project type thing that you're talking about with ARPA from the day-to-day operational interaction that they continually have throughout the year with departments, Parks and Rec included.
Thank you. Okay, so then you'll get an update from Sue, and then we'll add that to the agenda for Wednesday night. Make sure that we address. Thank you. Good research there, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just to amplify what Rich was saying, I mean, most of the items that were just mentioned are all down Niantic, so it'd be nice if, maybe moving forward we can, something we can do up the north part of town.
And to build on that, Roseanne Hardy is starting a brainchild of activities around the 250th year of the country. And the first person that she had called had said, "Oh, I live in Niantic. I don't really care about Flanders," and because she's thinking activities everywhere. And she said, "Well, Flanders is part of East Lyme." I think we have a lot of people that don't realize that East Lyme is more than just Niantic. And I think to build a healthy community, we need to realize that we've got more than just one section of town.
Agree.
Can I ask an ancillary question? I think it's related. Kevin, do you know if we get any accountability of the money that's appropriated to these community service organizations in terms of how they used it, or what happened over the course of the year, or is that not even feasible?
Are we talking about the $25,000 here?
Yes.
So we don't ask for anything in return. Besides services to our residents. I should start with that. But they do usually provide in their annual report to us that they attach now to this handy dandy little request form that I created. But they attach usually their 990 and then like their mission statement. Most of them talk about how many residents they've helped in East Lyme because they want to amplify that. So we don't have any requirement, but usually they do provide that in their annual report to the towns.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So then, as I continue to go through on my miscellaneous supplies rant, to zoning, they've got their actual in 2024 was 728. They've got the request in for 1,200 under miscellaneous supplies. Do you know where we are so far, Kevin?
I'm sorry, which section is this?
Zoning.
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 And planning, kind
Yep,
of
thank
the
you.
same thing. Have the same comments.
There spent $869 of the $1,200. We have 185 encumbered. They have $144 left.
Okay.
We just look to see if there's any large expenditure, one-time expenditures in there. Annual Adobe subscription, colored zoning maps. And that camera for the code, so not anything crazy.
Okay, so it looks like,
That was a tough one.
yeah.
We have one right here. Can they use this one?
That's probably about the same size,
Yeah.
6 by 72.
Yeah, that would be right.
So I think if there's a couple new zones, I think they get updates for.
Yeah.
But I'll take that old one.
Okay, and how about in
What's on the note?
planning? Unless someone wants to say anything else about so,
Can I?
sure.
The second item up at the top, 51905 longevity, doesn't really explain what it is. What is longevity for the zoning official?
So if an individual's been here, I think it's either 5 or 10 years, there's a formula, I guess, for calculating like longevity. It's like a bonus for being here for a while.
Right.
What is that one? $100 or something?
Yes, it is.
That's the cap.
Thank you.
That particular individual's been here just shy of 4 decades. So that's where all the longevity is right there.
So that's applicable to non-affiliated as well as,
Correct. Yeah, and there, I believe I think every union gets a longevity. I'm trying to think of any that I think they all get something. Some are a little different. Yeah,
okay.
collective bargaining.
But the non-union people still
Correct.
can get longevity
Yeah.
as well? Okay.
Okay, and planning, how are they doing in there?
So I just checked on planning. They are tough shit too. Their expense line was a little higher though at $1,500. So they spent $1,100. They have $300 left. I'm gonna shut this off and just see what our expenses were over here. So looks like we're spending $17 a month for an annual Zoom subscription. That's curious, seeing as the town has one.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm giving myself homework. So there's a Zoom subscription, and it looks like there's an Adobe subscription here as well. So one of the pushes, and just so I think we've talked about this at the Board of Finance level, there is one of the added costs in IT's budget that is not happened before. Adobe. We're looking to buy approximately 24 Adobe licenses across Town Hall. It's much cheaper to procure them in bulk than individual pricing. I think we were looking, I think it was either 24 or 30 subscriptions for like $3,000, about $100 a piece. Individually, we're spending $250. So we'd be able to realize some significant savings there. And then the other thing is, it looks like dues. Looks like there's a due in here for some planning association for $470. So this account might not be totally off. Let me just see if.
Well, if we get rid of the Zoom, $17 a month, there's $200. 204.
Let's see if, so it looks like we might have. It looks like we've expended all of our conference money from the planning, and now we are using the office supply line for some conferences. So the $500 in the economic in the planning conference line is fully expended. So we're at 486, and now that we've expended this line, it looks like we, instead of doing a budget transfer, we are just spending it in office supplies, which is a no-no. So, we got homework for next month, we'll do a budget transfer.
So,
Can I ask a general question, Kevin?
Yep.
This item in the last on zoning had the recording secretary fees. Is it possible to just have it transcribed through an AI-based system and then have it generate minutes that way? Are we legally allowed to do that? Because it seems like it might save some money.
That's a good question. I have not thought about that. I don't know.
Because that's what we do. That's what we do at work. We now don't pay for a service to transcribe our meeting minutes.
What's the name of the software? Do you have software, or is it just ChatGPT?
Maybe I'll tell you outside.
Yeah, share that.
Public microphone.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm gonna put a little note here and talk to you about that.
Interesting idea. Yeah.
okay. So then, I'll make a motion to reduce the miscellaneous supplies by $200. Then, I have a second there.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. Kevin, you also mentioned an Adobe license, but that the IT department is purchasing bulk Adobe licenses. So would it be necessary for them to additionally have an Adobe license?
No, because we would buy it in bulk.
So
What?
that would be an additional $250?
And is that in the IT budget now?
It is in the IT budget that we're proposing
Closing,
here.
okay, so it is included.
Yeah, so that could be another realized savings.
Yeah,
Mm.
okay, so then, I'll withdraw that motion, and so how much would the Adobe?
So the Adobe was $250.
Okay, so then,
17 times 12,
204.
450. Seven's really throwing me off.
okay, so we're
They're
going
not
to
lucky
reduce
for
the
you.
miscellaneous supplies by $450 is my motion. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, that motion carries 600.
Denise, can I ask Kevin
Sure.
one question? In regards to those Adobe licenses, is it possible? Well, I would imagine they're probably all shared licenses, correct? Rather than dedicated licenses.
I don't know the specifics. I could ask Dan Cleary. I
Okay.
don't think everyone in town hall, so we did a survey of who currently has Adobe licenses and who would want Adobe licenses. There were less than 30 people that wanted or needed Adobe licenses. So 160 full-time employees. So I think it would be dedicated licenses, because I think it works off your email now with the multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
So I don't think there'd be an ability to share those. But being counter, I have no idea. I can ask.
Okay, so you only had 30 requests, but
There was 30 people that responded to the survey.
okay. Just if we're asking IT questions for Wednesday, some more clarification on the Adobe licenses and what shared versus dedicated licenses would cost, and if there's a minimum number of licenses that we have to get the discount break. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Denise.
Good point. Finance department, I was just gonna make a suggestion. We have, in the Board of Finance, we have $1,000 for miscellaneous supplies. Realistically, anything that we're doing, Kevin is doing. So I was going to say, why don't we just eliminate the miscellaneous supplies under Board of Finance? And then, with that in mind, I won't propose a cut to the miscellaneous supplies for the finance department because they're so. I guess so. My motion is to eliminate $1,000 in miscellaneous supplies in the Board of Finance budget. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion?
So you're saying all the stuff that we get given in terms of agendas and paper and binders can come out of Kevin's budget?
Mm-hmm. And
And not
James
out of-
is,
I think it already does. I mean,
I absorb, you know, it's through purchase orders through my department, and usually we just miscode it anyway to the finance office, because we never think of, you know,
Oh.
putting it to you guys, so I think it's just a housekeeping item.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and if we do go over, I come in here begging and pleading
Yeah.
for more money to build your books.
and,
so can I have those books back? right
and so future boards of finance won't have to go through this. Okay, so motion's made and seconded. Did we vote on that? No.
We did not vote
I don't know if I had heard a second.
Yeah.
Anyone second that?
I'll
You-
second.
John seconded.
John seconded.
Oh, sorry.
Looking it up.
Sorry. Just want to make sure for the record.
Yep, made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, that motion carries.
Can we reuse the tabs too next year?
Well, if you bring those books back to me, if no one has an interest in keeping them,
Why would I keep it?
you'd be surprised. I mean, sometimes I get them like 4 at a time. Usually at the end of the term, they're like, here's your books back. But yeah, if you're good with that, you return those and,
We reuse them and, recycle them.
I think last year's were black.
what
We
are
need new
they
tabs.
white this year?
They're white this year, so remember I gave you my back.
I think your book is still sitting in a pile on my shelf. That we'll be reusing that next year.
So the next one that I was looking at was contingency. I mean, I really believe in all of these things, but I'm just feeling like maybe this isn't the year that we can put as much towards the Coastal Resiliency Fund. I was thinking maybe we reduce that 15,000 and just, you know, we'd still have something in it.
Can you
And
show us what's been spent?
we haven't spent anything.
We haven't, so this fund hasn't been passed by the Board of Selectmen through an ordinance yet. We're working on that. But the S&P and Moody's want to see us working towards this fund. So last year we funded it 22,500, and if we add 10, you propose 10,000, 20, any little bit helps. As previously mentioned, I don't know if I emailed everybody about Brantford and some of the other shoreline towns. They're putting a couple $100,000 a year into this. We're in our infancy stages of building this fund, so anything kind of similar token to the OPEB trust. I don't think in the next few months we're going to be able to get that out the door. And also 7,500. I'm not sure what that's covering. More symbolic. But I guess we'll tackle these one at a time.
And I think you said for the Coastal Resiliency Fund, part of the reason Brantford and Guilford spend more money is because of their geography.
Correct.
They have greater
That's true.
risk from the ocean. And
But I think we still have areas. I think if we did that same analysis, like I think down by McCook's Point, that road that's pretty low down there. Is that Atlantic?
I think it is, yeah.
Is that Atlantic Ave, I believe? That road is very low. I think that road is probably at a very similar elevation to some of those roads in Brantford. Brantford may have more of them, but I mean the town still is at risk being a shoreline community.
And we saw that in the wall that caved in McCoy. I mean, that's the extension of, Atlantic Road, and it's that low area that gets battered when we have a big storm. So, I think the important thing is that we're being consistent from year to year in adding to the fund. More important than the actual amount is that we recognize that need, and we're doing the best we can. Look, this has been a tough year for numerous reasons. I think if we can put a nominal amount in there, um, you know, we got to make sacrifices somewhere, so maybe
Yeah.
So
it's a
there-
good place.
You know, at the end of this year, our hope is to have 22,500 in that fund, because that's what we budgeted this year. We need the fund created first. We established a little internal committee amongst like some department heads, stakeholders. So the next step is just putting a proposal of an ordinance in front of the Board of Selectmen and get that pushed through.
I'm sorry, just so I'm clear, so you said the fund doesn't exist right now because it hasn't been approved.
Correct.
So the 22,525 adopted budget and the 26 requested budget, those are not additive, those are
So
net of?
it's our hope that the 22,500 we put in the 25 budget. God bless you, Dan. So that money we budgeted for in this current fiscal year, our goal is to get this Coastal Resiliency Fund established before 6/30, and then we would do a transfer to move that 22.5 into the fund for its initial funding. Does that kind of answer your question? And
So
then
it's basically sitting in the general fund.
it's sitting in the general fund until we establish that fund.
Earmarked, if you
And
will.
then you're gonna add, at least as proposed, an additional 25 for the next budget year.
Correct.
In the same fund, so it'll have 47.5.
Plus
in
interest.
it, plus interest. Okay, and you're proposing to,
Reduce the proposed addition of 25,000 by 15,000 to a contribution of 10,000 for this proposed budget.
okay.
It
Oh,
will
wait.
show that we're continuing to add to
We're
it.
still funding it.
Wait, Denise, could you repeat that? How much are we reducing this by?
So,
Because I thought I heard 1,500.
so 15,000. That's,
I don't know if it's hard to see here, Rich.
yeah.
Highlight 322 here, coastal resiliency. So the new amount is 10, or the, what's on the table, the motion on the table is to bring it to 10,000.
So, just sort of in the bigger scheme of things, yes, we're starting to put money aside, but, right now, we're also looking at the cooks, and we're looking at, bonding that,
Right.
one way or another, if we had, some catastrophe, or, we would either address it for, emergency bond issuance. So what this does really is just say, we're gonna kind of just put money aside.
No, I fully
Yeah.
understand. I just, for some reason, my ears heard 1,500
Oh.
instead of
Now, I,
15,000. And so I just wanted to confirm that.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, even with the changes that we voted on last Monday, we're still looking at a 7.06% increase in the mill rate. So I'm just looking at where can we, make cuts that aren't really felt by our residents.
Kevin, you said that the bond raters have asked us to do this. Is there a minimum that they want to see in it, or it just has to be something?
It's a something. I think, what was the two, Dan? It was coastal resiliency, and the other big push was cybersecurity and OPEB. Those three.
Yeah. So I think it's more, it's an acknowledgement by the town that we recognize that these are areas we need to make improvements on. And by having them in place, it's not so much the amount, it's the fact that each year we're adding something to it. We've created it and we're adding something to it. So, the difference of 10 or 15,000, if we really had an event, we're still going to be going out finding money from somewhere else. But, over time, if, maybe next year we really get a lot of issues resolved and maybe we have some extra money, maybe we can, double the fund. If we have 32,000 in it, maybe we can put, another 32 in it and really show some progress. So it really is something we can dip into if we need it. But the main thing for right now is to maintain our bond rating. That's the cost. That's the more serious cost. And by at least having something that accomplishes it. And if we are able to ever so slightly reduce the mill rate by reducing that amount, then it's probably a worthwhile place to take money out of, I think.
All right, so I just wanted to show everybody, sorry, it's a little jumpy there. We were just kind of talking about all the contingencies. One of the other ones was OPEB. So you can see over the column all the way to the right is 2019. In 2019, our actuaries calculated we had an OPEB liability. OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits of $8.5 million. Since then, it's 5-year review, we're down to about $3 million, but that's an unfunded liability. So when you look at that $3 million, if that came due today, knocking on our front door, we don't put anything aside, we pay as we go. So the idea is to establish a trust, very similar to what we do with the pension, put money aside every year, and that way the trust kicks in the expenses, so that way when the expenses start growing, there's a pool of money to tap into.
And the whole point of creating the trust too is that then the funds could be invested for the
Earn higher
long term,
interest.
as opposed to any funds that are sitting in our general fund can only be invested in short-term instruments covered under Connecticut General Statute 7-400, saying it's got to be like CDs, repos, treasury bills, everything on the very short end of the curve, because conceivably the funds that are in the general fund are going to be used for expenses. But by creating the trust, it opens up the pool of investments to equities, everything that pretty much the pension could invest in. So it's aligning the assets with the liabilities more efficiently.
Good explanation.
That was a great explanation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I still am confused. So we're adding $7,500 to this OPEB trust, and yet the numbers you just put up there show our liability going from $9 million down to $3 million. In my non-bean counter mind, I don't get that.
It's still in the millions. So even though it's gone down,
We're adding such a small amount. How do we get from $9 million down to $3 million?
We're also at the point where the Board of Selectmen still has to create the ordinance to establish it.
that and then a lot of
We've been paying down the liability as people retire.
correct. Well, and what's happening is a lot of the individuals. This is kind of sunset to a certain group, and as they retire and unfortunately pass away, that's what's really dropping that liability.
And as they go on Medicare,
Oh, is that what it is? That was something like that.
yeah, so when you go on Medicare,
So
Then-
we could,
That reduces that liability?
yes. And so I think, we also see that, people are working longer. And
so it doesn't seem like our $7,500 is making much of a dent.
It's more of a startup
We
cost.
could put $50 in, and we're still gonna have the retirements and people going on Medicare. That's gonna make the bigger dent. Have I got that right?
I think the 7,500 was more to cover any legal expenses in establishing the trust.
Okay.
It's really the same mentality as having, the Coastal Resiliency Fund. So we have these funds in place so we can point to them and say, look, we're doing the right thing. And that helps preserve our bond rating. And that saves us, a better bond rating saves us a lot more money than, the 7,500 or whatever it is we're putting in there. But it's showing that we're starting to think the right way fiscally, fiscal conservancy, and being conservative, and that's what they want to see. So we need to do it for that purpose. Yeah, you're right. I mean, just the actuarial effect of people getting older and coming off of the program is reducing that number. But we still have to acknowledge it and try to accommodate it to the extent that we're able to.
Okay, so I think, well, let's make it 3 separate items. I will make a motion to decrease the Coastal Resiliency Fund proposed budget of $25,000, reduce it $15,000 to a $10,000 contribution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, that motion carries. In that same light, I think we could also reduce the OPEB trust contribution. You know, we're still in the infancy of getting the trust established. Hopefully we do get that established this year. Do you think 5,000 would cover legal expenses for creating the trust?
If not, we can
Good.
supplement it
Yeah, we'll
through the
get it.
general government or the labor
Okay.
attorney lines.
Then I would like to make a motion to reduce the OPEB trust contribution, 2,500 to a contribution of 5,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
The motion has been made and seconded. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600. And then the contingency in our contingency budget is typically a percentage of the overall budget, I think, and depending on what contracts are in negotiation.
So the personnel contingency,
Mhm.
we're currently in negotiations with the UPSU union. So that's what the $200,000 is for, depending on how that negotiation goes. Because you'll know all of the UPSU union wage lines are 0% right now. So this is to account for any potential increases that's voted on.
So you guys know this better than we do. Do you think there's any room?
I wouldn't touch the personnel one. The townwide one may have some wiggle room. That's
Yeah.
up 100,000 year over year. I know this current year, obviously, that's been stressed, but I think we've had a few black swan events that, God willing, don't rear their heads again.
Pray for rain.
So I mean, any improvement over the 200,000 that we currently budgeted, personally, I'd be grateful for. I know it's a bad budget year. Do you want to go in the front screen to see what our number is currently?
Please.
Okay, just go here. So we're currently at 1.85%, 1.85 mils, 7.02%. All right, I don't know what we started the night, 7.06.
Yes.
So, I mean, I know it doesn't sound like much damage for paper sec. We started the night 2,270,000, and we're at 2,244,000. So I mean, we cut 30,000. On the town side, we've dropped about 0.1%. So it's making progress. So I mean, this will really make a dent if we take 50K out of here.
And that was exactly what I had written down here, 50,000.
$250,000's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's 50,000 more than we have this year.
All right, I'd like to make a motion.
Which contingency?
55916. Oh wait, are you talking about the
No, the town-wide one?
300,000,
The
drop it to
the 300?
250.
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the 55916 line item, reduce it from 300,000 to 250,000, so a $50,000 reduction.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Question, please. So you said there's been a couple black swan events this year. Are you able to say how much of that prior budgeted amount for the town-wide contingency has already been used? Ish?
So just off the top of my head, 100,000 for additional public safety legal, 30,000-ish, 28,000 and change for a hazardous boat that was floating in the harbor. So right there, we're at $130 of our $200,000. What's the third thing that happened?
Brush fire?
The brush fires, the
Overtime.
overtime for the fire department. I don't even believe we hit contingency for that. Give me one sec. It was, I think there was a third, kind of black swan event that we've. 10 seconds. I'll have your answer. Oh, without even looking, the other big one that just happened 2 weeks ago was the 2021 health insurance. Let me see what the exact dollar amount was on that.
Oh, yeah. That was that payroll disruption that we had to fix.
Yep.
Yeah.
You call them black swan events, but don't we get those every year?
Let's
Not
hope
like,
not.
not like
No,
this.
but
So,
Like,
this
this
has
has
been a
been a
really
triple
bad year.
whammy this year.
so, no, just the boat. So I think it's just those three. So, 29,000. So over 25,000. So we spent over 25,000 for fixing 2021. We talked about this a couple months ago. There was a health insurance issue where there was about 50 employees town-wide. Their health insurance was being deducted post-tax, not pre-tax. We hired a tax attorney and then an accountant to do some calculations, make sure we were compliant with the IRS guidelines, and then we paid them a small stipend to get their taxes redone because it was our error, on top of paying them back their FICA and Medicare. So those individuals have to get their taxes refiled for 2021. This will happen again for 2022 and 2023. We fixed the problem for 2024, but this problem's north of $75,000 all in. So about 25,000 a year. We just got done with 2021 because we're under the deadline. Our employees have until either if they filed an amended return, if they filed an extension in 2021, they have until that extension, 3 years from the extension date. But if they filed, 4/15, they have 3 years from that filing date to amend their tax returns. So we were kind of under the gun for 21 to get that out the door. So I've been here just shy of pushing 3 years, and there are things that roll up on our beach every year apparently, because 2 years ago it was a dock that rolled down from, was it
Glastonbury?
Glastonbury.
somewhere up there, and
Somewhere.
I recommended driving it back up, but
Yeah.
that was about 10,000 removed from the beach. And then this boat that kind of got stuck offshore in some shallow waters, that was $29,875. So, and then last year we spent 25,000 to fix the seawall. So there are things that come up every year. It's just a matter of what they are and how much they are.
So for things like that boat,
Mhm.
are we able to assess the owner of those fees?
Well, we're-
Or is it just an abandoned boat?
no, it was a fellow that was living on the boat, and he had to be rescued off of the boat, and then the boat tipped over because it was a sailboat in shallow water and flooded, and so we had to remove the boat to keep it from breaking up on the beach. But apparently that was his sole asset in the world, and it's kind of an unfortunate situation. So really not planning on going after him for
Okay.
it, although we may legally would be able to. It's made a decision to let it go.
Yeah.
But there was a discussion of maybe assessing some portion of voters' licenses, whatever, to kind of build.
Create a fund of some sort?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to see if there's some mechanism so we can, because every couple, 2 or 3, 4 years, there's something like that happens. And maybe there's a way to, find a way to create a little fund to head that off if it happens
Yeah.
again. I mean, it's one thing for one boat, but if you're down south in Florida and there's, a big event, a hurricane, there's still boats sitting in trees and places from 2 years ago. It's, in these small communities, simply can't afford to get rid of the boats. I mean, it's 30,000, well, that's one boat for us, but what if you had 10 boats like that? That could be a huge thing, so, something to think about.
Yes, so I know we do have a harbor management fund now. I guess one of the discussions could be to earmark a certain percent of their permits or whatever their licenses or whatever it's exactly called, mooring permits. Right, because I think they go up to a mooring. So maybe a 10-20% of that and just put it aside into some sort of perpetual fund to fund things like this would probably be a good idea.
So that's a discussion we need to have.
All right, so any more discussion?
So I just want to summarize what I think I just heard is that you said initially that this was a particularly bad year, but then after that you guys remember there's that. So it feels like maybe it was not that much of an outlier year, and that there's always going to be things.
There's always things, but this is a very bad year.
I mean, we had a number of things that landed in 2025,
Fiscal 25.
fiscal 25.
One other question. I know we have recommendations for fund balance, and we wrote up a policy about that. What percentage of the budget is recommended as contingency?
15 or 16. So common practice local government is 1 to 3% of general fund. I think this can go as low as 0.5%.
Oh,
It's good over there.
Yep. So, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
nay.
So 2 noes, so the motion carries 4-2. Right.
And Denise,
Mhm.
before we move on from contingency, I know that we've been cutting and cutting and cutting, but still, I think for a symbolic contribution, there should be a line item, $250 or $500 to open space fund, because we do have that line in our accounting system, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to have been there at some point.
Yeah,
Yep.
just so that we're symbolically building for the quality of life of our citizens.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Make a motion to put $500 into an open space fund under contingency.
Okay.
Or,
Operating transfer out to open space.
okay.
Does anyone second it?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, no further discussion. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. 5-1.
Okay. Just give me 1 second, everybody.
And the reason I say no, it's just that when we buy land, we're taking it off the tax rolls. And there is a lot of open space, and we made a very significant investment just last year with the Oswegatchie Hills, Brainerd Road, you know, and that was a very big investment. So I feel like, yeah.
Denise, if I could respond.
Sure.
There have been studies that have been presented to various groups and to town that open space actually costs less than a developed piece of property because of the services and infrastructure that you have to supply to any development. So the tax
Mhm.
revenue would be eaten up by infrastructure
Mhm.
and services.
Yep, and I think we saw that when we decided on the Oswegatchie, that the cost avoidance from everything from public safety to school children and everything else, you know, does offset it, but I think we just did a big one, so that's all.
I'm just saying we need to
Yep.
keep it in our mind.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just gonna run and grab some water real quick. I'm dying over here.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
See you guys later.
Just figure out where we are. I think we're all set for finance. And I think we're fine with zoning board of appeals. All. I think we were
What are you at?
Inland Wetlands Agency. I didn't have anything there. Very small. Brookside Farm Museum. I didn't have anything there.
There may have been some, I think we might be able to cut the utility line. Let me just,
Oh, in Brookside?
yeah, I think it's running really low. Let me just look. Never mind. That one.
Town Building Committee, the clerical recording secretary. I don't think we've got the committee even.
I don't believe they've met since I've been employed here.
Yeah,
Um,
and I don't think we have any buildings that we're planning on building in this year.
Oh, we didn't tell you.
I don't believe any of the school projects,
They have their, yeah,
they have their own building committee. I don't know how
Yeah.
that works.
I'm not quite sure how that, yeah.
Yeah, and that I don't think that's in ours. If it was in ours, we would have
Yeah.
seen more.
Right, that's right, I think it's,
Yep.
Yeah. So we could either zero it out, or if it's easier to leave it at $1 to keep the account open.
Yeah. If we could leave it at $1, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reduce that $249 to a proposed budget of $1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Conservation of natural resources. I am going to ask what where they are in their miscellaneous supplies, because,
Well, more importantly, I think we should look at the secretary line. We budgeted $1,000 and we spent 90.
we spent 90 so far?
$90.
Okay.
There is a potential that it is being paid for by a different, so we have a lot of individuals that do recording,
Yeah.
and so there's a high probability her salary is moving, it's being charged to a different account.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna put a note to myself to check on that.
Okay, because
But
it
if
was
not, that-
808 in 2024.
Yeah, so it's high probability, someone probably quit, a new
Mhm.
person took the job, and they're being double
Sounds
accounted for
probably.
somewhere.
Okay, so then that'll be an item for us to follow up on Wednesday. And where are they in miscellaneous supplies so far? Because they were $39 in 2024. Looking at, then they requested 200, reduced 150.
They have not spent anything yet.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to reduce it by $100 and leave that at a $50 for miscellaneous supplies. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No? Motion carries 600.
Where are we landing on the recording secretary?
We're gonna follow up on Wednesday, after they figure out whether it's being double counted somewhere, since, we don't
One
have any
secretary might do
actual.
multiple commissions, so I'm just worried that once we catch up and then start billing her to the correct line, if it was $880 the year before, I know they meet regularly, so I just don't wanna get stuck, $1,000 short later.
Trail maintenance item got zeroed by you. Which 5,000 requested, you zeroed it.
They received a grant for that.
Yeah, that was for the one for, which one was this? I'm sorry.
Conservation Natural Resources, was it?
Yes.
So initially, in the first selectment budget, here, I can pull it up, Dan.
Yes, we can see
They,
it.
not long after they put that in, they received a grant
Okay,
from DEP, I believe it was.
that's right, yeah.
Jerry might know some about this. Darrow's Ridge?
Yes.
Can you speak?
About the capital?
No, there was, so just.
For trail maintenance on Darrell's
Can
Ridge.
you work with Gary Gaishel on that grant?
Okay.
So just,
Yeah.
you just talk to that grant for like 30 seconds.
So at Darrell Pond, the master plan called for some trail work. We submitted a grant request with the planning department to the Connecticut Deep, and we received funding for planning and development of trails, so planning and design, rather, of trails. We expect that in future years, the state DEP will also fund the construction of those trails. So if that answers the question.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that can come out,
So it was just funded through a grant.
yeah.
So it's not gonna have to get covered by somebody else, is sort of where I was going. Sounds like it's gonna get covered by this grant.
Correct.
Thank you.
Then on to Historic Properties Commission. I am, just looking at the service contracts, which came to 1,930 in the backup, but the request for the budget is 2,400. I was going to say, let's reduce it by 400, and so it sounds like the 2,000 will cover what's there. So I'll make a motion to reduce the service contracts line item in the Historic Properties Commission from 2,400 to 2,000. Have a second?
Second.
Motion's Made and seconded. Any further discussion then? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600. Then I just had a question on the cemetery maintenance, because I know that had some movement going around with the cemetery maintenance.
So that was in services of the community.
Okay.
We
And
we
so-
moved it to historical properties just
Yep.
because it is a
Yep.
mandated function of the town to maintain the cemeteries.
Mhm.
So I want to keep it out of the
Yep.
service of the community budget.
Yeah.
Yep, got it. So I didn't have anything more there. Anyone else?
There's no explanation of the miscellaneous supplies.
$7,600. That is, they're redoing the barn. Let me pull this up real quick. Betsy's gonna kill me if you guys touch this one. Repairs on east side of house, seal the cedar roof, and repair fencing around the property. And this is for the, here I could take this up a little bit.
Stuff for Samuel Smith. Yeah,
This is for the, not Brookside Farm. the other
Sam
one.
Smith.
Sam Smith.
And that, that sealing, it's really important that they seal it, otherwise we don't want the wood to start to rot again on that structure. I think a while ago it was replaced, and we want to keep it in good repair, so I think that's important.
I think it's just the backup data is kind of misleading in the book, because it's got 7,000 for miscellaneous supplies, but it says Historical Society and the cemetery moved to this department. So 3,000 each plus 1,000 contingency, so that's kind of,
Does yours look different than this one?
Yes.
mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think I created two.
Somebody did.
Someone did. Yeah, this isn't one of my official records, so I apologize if, I know it's $7,600. We've been with Betsy many times, Mrs. Getch,
Mhm.
for this particular line item. This is why she came to that last meeting.
Yeah, so I think that's the confusion, because our backup also has 20,000 for the replacement of the wood shingle barn roof.
That was approved last year.
Yeah, so I think we've got
Yeah.
last year's.
Okay.
Comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't.
So the number is actually 16,000. We have 15.
Let me see what I have. We made a, remember, one of the first meetings, I can't remember, it might have been a Board of Selectmen meeting, the last meeting, Scott, my math was wrong. Adding 2,500 plus 3,500 is not $5,000. It's 6,000. Didn't carry that one over. 500 plus 500 is 1,000. It doesn't just disappear. So that's where the 15 versus the 16 comes from. Let me just make sure the actual work paper we have, our guided document matches up here. Which the Board of Selectmen made that adjustment, that mea culpa for me. And then, so 16 should be, was the
added that.
amount before we cut the 400 from the service contracts line.
Okay, anything more from historic properties? No. Public safety, emergency management. So,
Can I go back to the contingency of historic properties?
Sure.
Which one, Rich?
Historic
We were,
properties.
what we just did, the historic
Okay,
properties. Okay, so it's, you got 7,000, which is 3,000 from the cemetery, and the historical society, and then $1,000 of contingency.
No, let me just explain it real quick. So there's I think you're mashing two lines together. So that cemetery and historic society, that's the $6,000.
Okay.
The special projects is the $7,600 line. That's comprised of the east side of the house getting redone and sealed, repairs to fencing, and then
Sealing the roof.
Was it the roof, or I thought it was the roof? Sealing the roof. That
Yeah.
roof is new.
So it's a
So it
cedar
needs to be
roof,
sealed
it has
every
to
couple
be
of
sealed.
years.
Right.
We spent a lot, it was very expensive to put that roof on it.
Just see.
Does that answer you, Rich? Are you good?
Yeah, I was just wondering if the contingency was a little bit on the high side.
There's no, that particular account doesn't have a contingency.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Public safety. Did anyone have anything for public safety, emergency management? I had a hard time finding fault with their miscellaneous supplies since it went down 78%.
But just the majority of that went to IT.
Right.
Right. So.
That was a move.
And do you have any more up-to-date information on anything in public safety, emergency management that
Not for
you would
emergency
share?
management. So I guess when we talked about vacancies,
Mhm.
one vacancy we kind of didn't touch upon that should just be noted by the board. So in this particular budget, right, we have a director who is on paid administrative leave. He's also the police chief, right? So the deputy director is filling in for that position with a stipend. So just so, I don't know how that kind of works with the open things, but just something of note that, we've had one
So the-
individual doing this job for the last 10
Year.
months. Yeah.
So the question being, however everything plays out, would whoever ends up being the police chief, would that role revert? And that was probably going to be something that the police commission would,
Yeah, that's something that's gonna have to be worked out and discussed, and I wouldn't wanna comment on it.
yeah. All right.
Okay. On the training line, it seems like a pretty big jump, but there's really no detail as to
Yep, that's a good point. So Kevin, you're checking to see what's been expended in training?
Yep, and I was just pulling it up to see what it said. So it says 2,200 for VOC, 500 for EOC training expenses, so kind of miscellaneous supplies, and then 250 for National Emergency Management Association dues. 22 is 27. That's up to 2950, not 3150, right? Scott? Numbers guy?
I was staring at the VOC line. I don't know, what is VOC?
2950.
Hold on, I just got an email about VOC today. I think it's like their emergency management training. It's the emergency management software that they use. So, I mean, he's at up to $29.50, not $31. So right off the bat, we cut it $200. He besides that, let me look, oh, you're right, look up today how much we spent here today, hold on. Spent about $849. We have $200 in encumbrances. Let me just dig into that $849 and see if that POG is if it's paid in installments or what the deal is with that. I see the dues for National Emergency Management. I don't know what it looks just like it's various dues that we spent so far there. But I don't see actually any training. Let me just look and see at the dues and fees line to see what's going on there. I don't see a dues and fees line. That's probably why. So that also encompasses her dues and fees line. So I don't see exactly. I don't see the $2,200 for VOG coming in there. If that's just conferences, training fees, that just might be like like L1, L2 administrative training. I'm not quite sure. I can't really speak to that. I can ask Julie.
All right, so maybe we'll follow up on that.
And then, Kevin,
Yep.
for the future, okay, Julie's been receiving a stipend on top of her base salary. Is it as much as what the director, that stipend, is it as much or is it reduced?
Reduce.
And has the department been functioning pretty well under her direction?
That's more of a Dan question.
Oh,
Sorry.
No,
The beans, the operations guy.
yeah. No, I think so. You know, she's conducting drills that we have to go to with tabletop scenarios, and she's been quite enthusiastic about that. And from my perspective, she's doing a great job.
okay. Thanks. That's what I was hoping
Yeah.
to hear, because in the
Yep.
future, I'm kind of hoping that that line can maybe disappear and that the police chief could just functioning on the police activities and getting that all straightened out.
Well, we'll see how everything plays out.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anyone have anything else? We'll follow up on that training line and address Wednesday if need be.
The other line to look at, I'll ask about is that miscellaneous supply lines for $4,300.
Yeah.
The detail is less than 1,000. So subscription to Adobe,
Yeah.
$195, supplies $800.
So
I mean, those
Ado-
together, that's
So the
$1,100.
Adobe would also be,
Correct. So I know that line's 4,300, and the detail here is less than 1,100. So I will follow up with that one as well.
okay.
It was, in the past, it was $18,000.
Correct. The majority of that got moved to IT. So there's a few lines here that got moved. Things got shuffled over to the IT. Anything with radios, communications, that all got moved to the IT's budget.
It's really not clear what the 4,300 is going to.
Correct.
But we're gonna get some detail and we can revisit Wednesday. Hopefully all these revisits will just be quick. Things.
We only have 2 so far, really. A couple more here and there, but nothing
As I
too
say, I know
crazy.
it's more than 2. Okay, dispatch. I know we had the full discussion on you know, the overtime and, I don't know if there's anything in operating expenses. Are they running on target everywhere there? Small dollars.
So I do know with dispatch, they tend to hold off on some of the trainings and different things until year end to see where they are, and then do their own self-imposed spending freezes. I know the police department also does that to some degree. They kind of hold off until year end to see where the rest of the stuff falls up top before they start spending later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of tough judging, looking at those two.
Okay, everyone good with dispatch? Okay. And police. I was looking at the operating expenses, the professional and business expense going up by 8.46%. I don't know where they stand right now.
I'll find out. Yeah, I see a
Should we be sharing your screen?
I normally do. I just worry that there's someone's name in here.
Oh, okay.
Let me just try to find.
My recollection when Mike was presenting was that this kind of covered having to go out for some of the things that were done locally for recertification, and that might explain some of the increase in cost there. I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly.
So, this is where they stand year to date. It's fully expended except for $65. So I'm just going to dig into this account.
Yeah, it does look like it's for a lot of their Chief of Police Association, LEC meetings, IACP.
So the largest, the ELC of Connecticut, is almost $11,500. I'm just going to click in and see now that we have our new fancy accounting system, I'm going to be able to click in and see the invoice. So let's just see, it might be by the police officer, but maybe there's wiggle room now that two of the, proposed police officers are,
Didn't he say that some of this, and I think you're remembering correctly, Rich, was training options that are provided because of the collaborations, and if they didn't have these collaborations, they'd have to go out and get training in probably a more expensive way.
I have the exact same note from the essentially what you just said here, that it ends up the increase in fees, but ends up saving us expenses.
If I can, on a different line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this kind of following on the double training notation in here that I was asking about the other day, and I can understand that for the police, for their contract, get paid additionally for attending training in addition to their overtime. But the first training line, 51,800, it looks like the department had requested $70,000 for that, but that was going to be with 2 additional police officers. So, and the first selectman nor the board of selectmen had reduced that line item. So to me, it seems as though that should be reduced. I'm not sure how much.
I will put a note in for Chief Masick to ask him. My only initial thought with that would be, we know we have a few retirements coming down the line. And so even though we're not adding to the police force, there's going to be, April, where one of the police officers is retiring, or tentatively retiring. So I imagine, I don't know if we're going to be getting as many laterals as we've been getting in the past. So, but I'll ask the question.
Okay.
Anyone have anything else under there? I was looking at the public relations line. I know how much have they spent to date in public relations? I know that's for like the night out thing and tchotchkes and stuff.
I don't know when the night out,
Yeah, they didn't have it this year. 'Cause we weren't having it.
Yeah.
National Night Out, yeah, that's a big one.
we've only spent $445.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to reduce that by $500 to $3,500. I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Why wouldn't we go bigger? They've spent $500 only for the year?
Because the night out was canceled. So,
Are the costs of the night out, that makes up that difference?
I think it's a lot of the stuff that they, purchased and presumably they had to have purchased it because it only got canceled at the last minute.
So let me see, there's two expenses. The description of both of them are public relations. So let me just click into the detail, look at the invoice, see what we've got here. I love our new accounting
We don't
system.
have to buy
That's
the
public
relations.
relations.
Yeah.
It means that it's paying a salary of a police officer to be present?
No, it's like, in this case, it looks like it's pens. So we bought 250 pens at 85 cents a piece. Barrel side clip. Yeah.
Oh,
Tchotchke
giveaway,
might be a good word for it.
giveaway. It just has East Line Police on the pen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Giveaway.
so it's
Yeah.
all trying
Yep.
to foster
Community
a
relations.
community with police. It's, I guess, apparently normally very well attended and stuff,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to assume that they purchased stuff and probably still have a supply somewhere, so I think I want to amend my motion to reduce it by $2,000.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries 600. Anyone have anything else in that department?
What does that end up with? So if you
2,000.
You reduce it 2,000.
They reduced it, it was 4,000, they
Okay.
reduced it 2,000 to
So it
2,000.
ends up at 2,000. Gotcha. Thank you.
So, this brings us to fire. And,
Just want to look up the testing accreditation one real quick.
oh, okay.
I just, I haven't. Instead of holding us here all night, I'll just ask the chief. I'll put it on my list.
Okay. Brings it to 3, does it?
Yeah, the
training.
legal, the testing and accreditation, we cut it to 25. That just seems like an arbitrary, $2,100 a month. So I just want to make sure if that's really what they need.
$2024 actual was $20,288. Okay.
Okay. It's going to
So-
highlight it. Okay, moving on.
So East Lyme Fire, noise. So this
sorry,
is,
that's right.
we have two open positions. So I'm just thinking,
So, oops, sorry.
so where,
So
so there's two open positions, correct?
we have, so technically, right now, we have 11 firemen, but we have 2 firemen that have put their papers in to leave. So that'll bring us down to 9 firemen. As you know, we have,
Firefighters.
what did I say?
Firefighters.
I was trying on that one, 2 all day. Okay, so firefighters. We need, realistically, in order to do our 3 crews of 4 firefighters, almost said it again, you need 12. So in the union contract, I just want to make sure it doesn't hold us to that 12 for the next year. Let me just pull up the 12 firemen.
So we had 11, we're down 2, and we need to hire 3 to get up to 12.
But in the budget, really the budget is adding a 12th and a 13th fireman. It's adding a 12th, July
Right.
1.
They're asking for a 13th, but you just said they need 12 in order to meet this new staffing.
Correct. Well,
Framework.
there's a short-term plan to get us to that 12, and then there's kind of the expanded view that's over time to get us to 18, which is 2, 2, and 2, 6 per shift, having 3 shifts of 6. So there's 3 fire stations in town. So right now, bare staffing is, or minimal staffing, essentially is 4, 2 down in headquarters, Niantic, 2 up at Flanders, and nobody at Station 2 by Rocky Neck. That's really being staffed by EMTs from the East Lyme Ambulance Service, but there's no fire response coming from that little side of town. So the ideal staffing situation would be 2, 2, and 2, having 2 firemen in each of those houses to respond, throughout town.
But
That's down the
they're
road.
pretty close together, the 2
Correct.
Niantic ones.
Correct.
So if we were to say not add the 13th spot, then where would that
Just a
Would-
half year.
13th fireman, hold on here. Let's go to,
because we're looking at union firefighters, we're
so if
Going
we
up
were to
30.
eliminate that 13th firefighter, there's a few different cost savings there. Let's just look this up. So let me just remove the names real quick. Okay. So let me put this on page view so no one sees page. Back it out a second. Okay, so what we have here, we have, here's firefighter 13. So essentially, if we eliminate, it would be $40,458 from the wages budget, because that person is coming in mid-year. right? So next year's budget, we would have to absorb the other half of that position. Very similar to the IT budget, where the question was, why is it going up 15%? Because we only paid for half of that third IT position, right? So we're spreading the pain over 2 fiscal years, right?
And then in addition to that, there are the benefits that
Correct.
would accompany
Yep,
that.
health insurance and,
Right.
and everything else from that position, correct.
When are the 2 firemen leaving?
In the next month or so?
Yeah.
They're both leaving with the next month or so.
Yeah.
So that's going to balloon or further exacerbate our overtime issue, right? Because the minimum staffing, I believe, is 4. So we were required to have 4 firemen on. We are, trying to hire for part-timers. That's posted on Indeed.com if anyone's a firefighter. We pay competitively. But realistically, 12 firemen is really what we need for those 3 crews.
That's really a critical number, to have 12. It's very important.
So just to show, this is our long-term, oh Jesus, it did it again.
I'm just also just thinking if, we're going to be trying to hire at least 2 more,
Right.
and
That's publicly shown, right?
Yeah.
The salaries of the
oh.
firefighters?
Well, it's FOIable. I just do it as a respect thing. Sorry, guys. Public, it's FOIable, public information. But thank you for that, Scott. But ideally, this is our, kind of our long-term, our plan, really, is to get us to 18 firemen. So that's July 1, 2028, right? So that's really fiscal year 29. By pushing out firefighter 13, all we're doing is really adding 6 months to that. If this all, works out. I think we've been hiring these 11 firemen over 50 years, 50, 60 years, something like that. So I imagine, it's a tough ask, but getting to this 18 firemen, or even 15, would put 5 on a shift. So 2, and maybe a floater or something like that. But that's kind of the what we're working towards.
Now, with these exiting firefighters, is HR conducting exit interviews?
I imagine so.
Did you say exit interviews?
Correct.
I think that's would be our practice. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because since they're such a hard commodity to come by, I think it would
Yeah.
be
No,
nice.
it's good to know what they're thinking when they go out the door, and I don't know what the exact policy is, but I'm sure that that's something we would do. And I'll speak with Stacy about that.
Okay, thank you.
I would think anyone handing in their resignation should have a.
Yeah.
Question, please. So, the 2 individuals who are chosen to leave, are they among the higher paid firefighters?
They're our newest.
Got it. So, okay.
And they are leaving to, I'm not sure about one of them, but I know the other one got a better offer at a larger fire department near us that I believe pays better and has a better schedule.
Got it. And the other question is, you said that because of these departures, until we get staffed up to the 12, we're going to have to pay overtime.
Correct.
And is that already budgeted for, all those overtime expenses?
No, our overtime, we are,
Contingency.
okay, so we are budgeting for $500,000 of overtime. We have $200,000 of this is for accrued time off, vacation, sick, personal bereavement, jury duty, whatever, all that stuff. $182,000 is for the Saturday coverage, right? Just so everyone knows, in the collective bargaining, Saturdays is not a day that the union firefighters work. So if they get called in, it is at double time, right? And then there's a small, the $125,000 here is for storm coverage and with storm and event coverage.
So I'm sorry, I'm being obtuse. I'm not really understanding the answer. So we do have budget to cover the overtime. I'm being obtuse.
I got the question. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So this budget does not, I mean, I guess to some degree, it's capturing if there's open shifts, right? Because we are kind of budgeting for everybody's vacation time. We're budgeting for, what is that, 6 sick days a year.
And don't forget, we still have 2 months of this year.
We,
So
we will hire, I mean, we have some part-timers. I'm pretty sure the chief and the deputy chief think could be full-timers, so they'll go through kind of a expedited interview process, and then, because we do internal candidates first. So I imagine those positions with benefits in a union won't be terribly hard to fill. It's keeping them here. With some towns that are a little larger and can offer more benefits and a better schedule and things like that.
So bottom line, the overtime is covered.
Well, I think you need to remember too that as we lose those positions, that's a decrease in the salary line that then is made up by the overtime. So there's a little buffer there by the positions
Yeah,
not
so
being filled.
if one person leaves, that's, straight time, we're calling someone in at time and a half. So for every shift that's open, we are losing, if it's a 24-hour shift, we're losing 12 hours of straight
Yeah.
time, or, eating into that overtime line. So it's really just a matter of when we get these people started.
But,
Firefighters.
it certainly is a matter of efficiency and savings to keep it staffed at 12 full-time firefighters, so we don't get into the situation where we're eating into our overtime budget. And we do have overtime in there, as you can see, but we have to be very careful to watch it and manage it efficiently, correctly.
For the new hires, is it like new police that have just, when we hire somebody who hasn't been in another police department, they're not actually ready to hit the ground running, but they have to go through the academy?
So I don't think there's.
Do the firefighters have
They come with their
anything similar?
certifications.
Yeah, they've got to
Oh,
be
okay.
certified,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and
So they can hit the
we
ground
would only
running.
want to hire somebody that has their, the relevant certifications that they need.
Oh, okay.
But I do know they do need certain training. Maybe Paul could speak to this being a volunteer, but I think you need certain training on each piece of apparatus before you're able to kind of either go out on your own or operate it, I believe. Does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah, there's certifications for if you're a pumper or ladder operator.
Okay, so it's not like we just throw them in a fire truck and say, have a great day.
Right.
They do have to go through, I think, a pretty rigorous, onboarding process. I know we had a new part-time fireman starting up in Flanders last Friday when I had to do an inventory, and he was being trained on one of the engines. So I think there's like a, mentoring program kind of situation.
But it's a much quicker getting up to speed than like
I think it's more on the job,
Yeah.
whereas
I think-
stuff goes to an academy and things like
Yeah.
And
that.
it can be done in-house too, I believe, right, by,
And
And
Yeah,
they also
they have
need
procedures.
You also
I mean,
need
the
a
chief.
special endorsement on your license to drive fire apparatus, so that's another thing you gotta look for.
It's not is it a CDL or what?
No, it's a Q,
Like a Q endorsement or whatever?
yeah,
Gotcha.
I still have mine.
Looking for work.
Where else can a CPA drive a fire engine?
I think Mr. Bowman too, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, could we get by in this budget without filling the 13th spot?
I think we can. Yeah, 12 is the magic number, sort of, for right now. And someday, 18 will be the magic number. But for right now, given all the other constraints, if we have to give up firefighter 13, I think that's something we can do. And still have a high-functioning fire service. As long as you get that, we have 12, that's going to save us money on overtime and keep the guys from getting too tired, or people from
Yep.
getting too tired out.
So can I just ask about the 18 number you guys have been talking about? That's a goal, and what's so critical about getting to 18 again, please?
2, 2, and 2.
Yeah, then you get to have two, we have 3 fire stations. This would allow you to have 2 at each station 24 hours a day. instead of 2 at Niantic and Flanders, 24 hours. So right now, we have 4 on duty
So
all
for-
the time.
So for the station where there's just the EMTs,
Right.
this ultimately allows us to have 2 firefighters there in addition to the EMTs.
That would be the idea, yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
And then I, just question, is that actually needed, given that the 2 firehouses are so close? And then I still think, given that, so the state has such a vested interest in that spot. So this is the one that would just have the EMTs, that building is owned by the state. And,
Lease it for $1 each.
We have a lease.
yeah,
Um,
As of 2021.
I think
We did have a lease.
I think there should be some way that, and I know I said this the other night, we're not getting fully funded in the pilot, given that we've got, Rocky Neck and York Correctional, and then we spend a lot of our resources responding to those 2 state facilities. And,
Particularly the prison. I mean, it's every day,
yeah.
and then
And-
some.
So I, if you can take that up with our legislators to
Yeah.
push, because what are we, we're getting underfunded by like $3 million.
Over 3 million, yeah. We
Over
have-
3 million.
There's
in the pilot.
145 million of state-owned property in East Lyme, and they pay 700,000. If they paid the mill rate, it would be over 3.8 million.
And that is a discussion for our legislators, and maybe we can have that discussion.
Yeah.
I mean,
We have emailed Nick and
Yeah.
Martha.
and they're very willing to work with us and advocate for our town, so.
So I'll make a motion to not fill the 13 spot of the firefighter this year and adjust the salaries, benefits, all associated with that firefighter 13 spot. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a
Yeah.
moment of levity,
Oh,
since
sure.
we've been here for 2 hours,
Yeah.
40 minutes. If we eliminate this, I think we should name the next one the 14th firefighter.
Yeah.
Buildings don't have that 13th
13th
floor.
floor?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, I digress.
It's okay.
So, I'm just kind of curious if we know about risk. So the fact that we are not fully staffed at the state-owned fire station, just EMTs there, is there an ability to quantify what additional risk that puts our community under?
I think we're reducing our risk by adding the 12th fireman, right? If you want to touch on that one, Dan.
Well, so, we're just talking about the fire department, but the overall risk, we now have the EMTs that are stationed in that building. And although it's not the most central point geographically in the town, it really, I believe, is central to the demand for the ambulance calls. Every time I usually have the scanner on, so you know what's going on. And every time I hear a call over to the prison, I know they're 45 seconds away from the prison. And same with, they're a minute away from the HEPA. And Crescent Point is probably not much, probably a difference of 30 seconds from when they were at Niantic, stationed at the Niantic Firehouse. So it's kind of an ideal spot for the ambulance service. And if you balance the overall risk, I think having them there and having, the 2 firefighters at each station, the other 2 stations, I think overall it reduces our risk in town. I think the ambulance service is where they need to be to get to the majority of their calls.
Right, so I'm appreciating that positive aspect of having
Right.
it where it is. I'm just wondering, by not adding that additional firefighter to, I guess, get us closer to the magical 18, are we increasing risk? And it sounds like you're saying you don't think so.
I think it's minimal. I mean, if, you'd really have to analyze where the fire calls are. And from Niantic, if we had a fire truck with we had 2 guys at that second station, they would be closer to, if you're trying to get out to the tip of Giant's Neck, then, or maybe down to where the police station is with a fire truck, it would be advantageous to have that service there. But the number of calls you get in those areas, I'd have to do a study to really say with any credibility if it's a greater risk or not.
But we're thinking, I don't know what the exact mileage is, but
Difference of 2 minutes,
Well, and
Yeah.
the other part of it is with the hiring of the 13th firemen, that only puts twice a week 5 firemen on a shift, so it's not really increasing coverage except for a
40% of the time.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a legitimate question, and I don't have a perfect answer for it because without really a study, it's hard to assess the risk. But overall, globally, I think we're in better shape now than we were in the past.
and overall, the majority of the calls are for EMS.
Right.
And the actions taken to stop having our firefighters going
On the ambulance.
off to the hospitals all the time with patients, then you're keeping the firefighters in town instead of sitting up at Norwich.
They're here to fight fires.
Yeah.
And they still do respond in R1 capacity, though.
Yeah,
So
but with a truck, so they can always, so the R1, that's the rescue capacity. So, and the reason for that is you have an ambulance call. People say, well, why is the fire truck showing up at the ambulance call? Because the EMTs don't have the capability to take down a door. And the fire service does. They can get into a place, they've got the equipment to take down a door and get to somebody that's on the inside. The reason that's not a problem for the fire service is because you have a firefighter there with a truck, so if they do get a call, they can respond from wherever they are located with that truck. They've got the truck with them. And so it isn't like, well, now there's a firehouse sitting without a truck in it. They're somewhere in the district, and they can respond from that point. So, and they're not tied up, actually administering life support or emergency medical services.
All right, so any further discussion? A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Any abstentions? One. So the motion carries 5-0-1. So that will affect not only the salary line. I'm just wondering, does it influence, besides healthcare, is there training, uniforms, whatever that would also be associated with that?
I believe so.
Yeah, so I think my motion covered all of those, and maybe we'll just get a follow-up on Wednesday as to what other line items.
That affected?
Yeah.
Then we'll have an accurate bottom line as a starting point on Wednesday.
Yep. So I think I was thinking training, fire prevention, uniform, miscellaneous supplies, maybe, whatever, so. Does anyone have anything else for fire service?
I just still got a problem with the fire hydrant maintenance. I don't know why that's not included in the water budget, because that's part of the water system. And
This is
the
the water.
the revenue for the water should be paying for that. And I said before, there's people at the north end of town that don't have a fire hydrant. Why are they paying taxes to cover, the fire hydrants down here? That's my feeling on the subject. So I don't know if there's some theory behind it, or is there an agreement between water and sewer in the town that's
Here's
doing
our
this?
water and sewer guy.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's been a, thank you.
Chairman?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Matching principles, revenue should go.
No, I mean, it's a topic, it's been a topic of discussion, and, water and sewer, they're feeling that, they should be, other municipalities charge, water systems in a municipality charge a lot more than what our water system is charging the municipalities for maintenance of the hydrants. There-
NPU charges the city of Norwich $800 a hydrant.
Yeah, something like, yeah, could be, and I think, I forget what New London,
New one is 500.
500, yeah, it's 500. So, and we're way below that. So there is an initiative and an interest to increase the charge to the municipality for maintenance of the fire hydrants. So we're going to have that discussion,
I just
and
feel the ratepayers are getting the benefit because of, they got a hydrant in front, they get reduced insurance costs, and I think it helps the water department more than it does the fire department.
well, that's that's going to be part of the discussion.
Okay.
And I'm not sure we can hash it all out here, but yes, there's pros and cons to it, and there's two sides to the story. So where that ends up, we'll have to have that discussion before the Water and Sewer Commission and
I
here.
think if you could take that as a takeaway, Deanna, it does seem to make more sense, but
Yeah, no, there's an
I
argument.
don't know
Yeah,
everything there is to know there, so I think that would be,
One more piece of site.
oh, what's it?
So, in discussions with the chief operating officer from the Water and Sewer Department, one thing he's brought up is it's not really just fire hydrant maintenance like the line says, it's maintenance of the whole system, and it's almost like an infrastructure charge. The idea, and one of his thoughts was, the pipes are larger than needed for just like the residents and the businesses, because of when there is a fire, it's a larger diameter pipe specifically to bring water to that scene, and then also part of the charge is the labor for flushing the system, and
Yeah, they're gonna come up with all kinds of stuff. I just think it's something that needs to be discussed. You don't have to, it's just,
Yeah, no,
just bouncing around inside my head, a lot of room in there.
no, and when we have that discussion, I hope you raise those issues at that meeting, because there are two sides to it, and it's hard for me because I wear two hats, and I'm trying to be in my own mind. It's like playing chess against yourself, but at some level. But
In my previous life, I was on the fire commission, we didn't pay for hydrants, so.
Yeah. No, there's legitimate arguments on both sides, and so it has to be discussed, and I know that issue surfaces occasionally at our meetings, and at some point we really have to take it on and figure it out. Well, yeah, monthly, right. But it is an important issue, and I don't want to say tonight where I think it ought to come out, but we have to hear from both sides.
okay. So we're done with fire service. Pending Wednesday. Public safety, animal control. I don't know, I don't have anything there. Anyone else? No? Okay, and I'm just taking everybody's temperature for whether they want to continue or whether they want to leave the rest for Wednesday, or does someone want to take a break and come back in 5 minutes? What's everybody, I know there's probably a basketball game that some people are interested in watching.
I think since for the discussion on public works, it would be helpful for Joe to be here.
Yeah, I
And
think so
I
too.
think this is probably a good stopping point. And
I'm not
we
sure
have
who's
a,
around this week.
oh,
You know, Ian? So I know he was in Florida
Oh,
of last
okay.
week. He might not be here all week.
But you were going to email him. Do you think he's responding to emails?
I will put my note number 4 to ask. Are there particular questions we want to ask him, so I can kind of?
the things that I was wondering about was there's a large grant that's given for Town Aid Road of approximately 316,000. And then we also have the road maintenance and repair line of $204,000.
Correct.
And I'm wondering if there's any overlap and if there's any cushion within that line.
So it's definitely overlap. I don't want to answer the cushion question because that's more for him.
Yep.
But both of those lines supplement the bonded road paving, right? So it's not just the 850 we put away every year for the roads. It's inclusive of the 200,000 for road and reconstruction. Where's 204,000 here for road recon,
Yep.
as well as that 316. Those are supplemental to the 800. So really, our road paving is closer to 1.35 million a year, and those are the 3 sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And the things that the engineer open spot, is that in Public Works?
it is. Yep.
So one of the things that I would suggest is that we don't fill that spot.
That's an easy number because we budgeted 45 because that's an open vacant position, and the idea was to fund it halfway through the year, similar to the firefighter 13. So just let everyone know we didn't lose our town engineer. Our deputy public works director just retired, and our town engineer got promoted to deputy public works director.
And so still,
So he still does
still
engineering.
doesn't.
And I believe he oversees also our civil engineer we have on staff.
So, I would say that I would make a motion to reduce that, filling that spot. What are you making faces at?
The TV just dropped,
Oh.
so I just thought we lost connection or something.
So, to reduce the open engineer position, which would result in a $45,000 reduction to line item 51618, and then request that any of the other associated expenses with that position be identified and followed up on Wednesday with those further reductions. So that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, just one thought I had is that the engineer, this position was used a lot for, as Mr. Burgaw said, he GCs a lot of his projects that go on through town. If we don't have the people to GC these projects, are we gonna have to go outside to bring in project management? It would just be a wash. That's probably a question for them, but
Yeah.
that's my
This is a
concern.
discussion better had with one of them here.
Yeah.
If Joe can't be here, maybe his deputy, the engineer.
It's a good argument. I mean, it's, we're trying to reach here to save every dollar we can in this budget. But, Paul, you make a good point that are we are we really gaining efficiency if, you know, with projects, we have to go outside and hire outside contractors that might cost us more? Without Joe here, I don't.
All right,
I
I
don't-
will withdraw my motion. Maybe we can get someone
Revisit it on
mhm,
Wednesday?
on Wednesday.
That might be wise.
Okay.
Hmm?
Sounds like a good time at Penn.
You good, Pen?
All right, and the other things I was going to suggest is reducing, if you wanna include this in your,
Okay.
reach out 3,000 from stormwater management, 3,000 from road signage, and 24,000 from road maintenance and repair.
Okay.
I know our roads are in great shape and we wanna keep them that way, but, you know, and
What was the, so it was 3,000 stormwater, 24,000 road maintenance. What was the first one?
the road signage,
Road signage. So how much was that?
3,000.
3,000.
So that's just what I was going to suggest, and
Yep.
if they wanna. Does anyone else have anything that they were going to suggest?
54,101,
Landfill groundwater
yeah,
monitoring,
I had it reduced by 5,000.
okay.
The landfill materials and transfer station, or the one beneath that, storm
Uh,
materials.
Land groundwater,
Groundwater monitoring,
So this one did go up because the transfer station has to go from annual to quarterly testing for PFAS.
Yeah.
So we were aware of that one.
Yes, I think we have to.
The
look at that.
groundwater monitoring, that's for PFAS in the
Mhm.
transfer station. So I'll write it down, but just know that that's.
yeah.
okay.
All right. And I don't know if we skipped over it. I know we're in Public Works. Did we miss the library, or is that after?
That's,
Because I see.
That's
Poetry
after.
Director Lisa Pepe's here.
Yeah,
Okay.
do you guys have a few more minutes in you to,
Sure.
go to, tab 420, culture and recreation? So, you know, in the spirit of, we are trying to find savings wherever we can. We've got the East Lyme Public Library. The 2025 adopted budget was $1,231,806. The department had requested an increase up to $1,334,426. I was going to suggest that increased request be reduced by 26,500. And thus make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded. Do I have any discussion?
Can I ask how you arrived at that figure?
You know, it brought it to 1,293,500. So it's still an increase from last year. Let me figure out
All right,
correctly.
so I have 1.344426, and you said bring it down by 26,000. That makes it 1,308.
Scott, there was a cut by the first selectman of 14,426 to bring it to 1,320,000.
I don't know what page to look at anymore.
Should be the first page.
Do that legal. Yeah, if you want to flip the, probably 3 pages from the back. Probably pretty close to the back there. It's just a line item under culture and rec. It's right before parks and rec.
So we can go 1.32 up here. And you're bringing it down by 26, so you get into the twos.
So it looks like it's at 5%. Was that your?
Yeah. You know, kind of the percentages weren't on here, but basically, you know, trying to keep any increase down to, you know, below 5 or below. And it would still be an increase to their budget of almost $62,000. 61,694.
And what's that percentage if you,
5, with the cut, it's 5%.
which is the ballpark of what we're getting for Board of Ed?
Yep. Any further discussion?
Yes, the libraries come in at very low increases over the last several years, and sometimes you have to pay the piper. You know, that's the increases were detailed here, and publishing houses have been tenacious in their contracts that they issue and are not very generous. The library is heavily used by the community, sponsors a lot of community events. I understand in the spirit of equity to bring it down to a 5% increase, but I think with the low increases that they've had the last several years, I would feel comfortable cutting a little bit of slack.
I tend to agree with Rich. I do think in the spirit of equity, I'm definitely agreeable to a cut. Just, I'm not sure for that amount.
Do you have a number in mind?
No, not right now. I was trying to think a little, going through the narrative.
Well,
Can we
let's,
ask, she's here, so, if you were to have a reduction, is it okay if I address it?
sure.
If you were to have
Yeah,
a
let's-
reduction,
Come on up.
how would you envision applying a reduction of 26,000 if you were to have such a reduction?
Several ways. I'd have to see where we end up this year. Like I said, I've been holding back on purchasing some books and not the ebooks because I don't want to play that game with them. If we didn't, you know, if it was short money at the beginning of next year due to this cut, the first thing that would probably go would be our Sunday hours. That can fill part of that hole. We might have only half Sundays open, or maybe open every other Sunday. Those would be some things I would think about. But again, I'd have to talk it over with the board. We could cut back on, you know, there's really only 2 places to take money from, either the materials that we're buying or the hours that we're open. Everything else we have is contractual and kind of set in stone. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and why would you choose hours instead of maybe just buying fewer new materials?
If we could get away with buying fewer new materials, we'd go with that. If that's not big enough to fill the gap, then we'd have to start cutting Sunday hours is usually the best way for us to do that.
Sorry, go ahead. Do you see a high volume on Sundays?
We have anywhere from 70 to 100 people walking into the library if there's in just 3 hours. If there's a children's program, we can have upwards of 300 in 3 hours. So it varies a lot time of year and what's going on. Unfortunately, it's a specific population probably that's coming in on Sundays. I just a hunch. I can't ask people who they are when they come in on Sunday. I just have the numbers of how many come in. So again, we would have to look and see where we were at.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of reducing the request by $26,500 to a $1,293,500 for a 5% increase, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No,
Nay.
opposed.
Nay.
And nay. Okay, so motion doesn't carry. Do I have any other motions on the library board? Library, East Lyme Public Library.
I don't know that I have a motion. I'm open to discussion about if we've been going through the budget cutting other departments. I'm agreeable to a small reduction. I don't know that I had an exact number in mind. I would be interested in other board members' positions on that.
I just feel the same way, that they've done such a great job the past few years that it's kind of a one-off. It's kind of a glitch, I don't know, say a glitch in the system, but
I guess I just feel like,
Aberration.
you know.
is this the year though that you try to make it up?
I don't know that it's necessarily a year that's making up something. You know, you can look at the value that the library serves the town. I just think that, what was your increase last year, 1.1% or somewhere around?
I don't have my notes
Yeah.
with me, I'm sorry.
But it was very low, if I recall.
Yeah, Kevin, you've got the information over the last couple of years, right?
I'm struck by that Sunday part,
Yeah.
attendance. That's
Mhm.
a lot of people.
Yeah, it is
But
a lot.
Yep.
if you were to cut down hours, that,
Yeah, our
if they wouldn't have that option, and I feel as if, gosh, I would not like to see that. I agree.
Yeah, I would really try to fill that with not buying as many materials before I would do that. Our Sunday hours cost us about $15,000. But again, I'm not spending the ebook money this year because I don't want to pay all the enormous prices they're charging us until Hartford decides what they want to do. So I do have $6,000 there that I have in reserve for the end of the year to make it through. That may carry forward.
All right, can I make a motion?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to move that we reduce the overall library budget by $10,000. I'm just hoping that you'll
Yeah.
maybe cut down on materials and not hours.
I could probably fill that with materials if I had to. I would prefer to fill that with materials for the same reasons. We're not so much we lend out books, but we are also a community hub for services that people get on the weekend. So my preference would be to,
Just in the spirit
cut
of
back on
asking
materials.
something of all the departments.
I understand that, yeah, you guys have a tough job. I've been here all night. I watched from the other night. If I can make it, my job is to tell you what I need, your job is to tell me what I can have, and my job then is to make it work, so I'll make it work. We may end this year on a better note than we think. Last month's treasurer's report, things looked a little better than I thought they would. But again, there's no telling what's going to happen the next 3 months, but.
I'll second the motion, just so that we can have further discussion.
Just one comment.
Mhm.
I know years ago, maybe before your time, the
I've
library-
been here a while now. I'm getting old.
Oh, I forget.
It's my 21st year of this.
Anyway, the library budget was cut quite a bit, and I don't know what the number was, but it was cut. And what ended happening was that the Sunday hours were reduced a lot.
Yeah, again, that's the simplest way to reduce them. We know that the Sunday hours are
And
15.
I remember the outcry from the
1,000.
public.
More people than you think
Yeah, I was
attend to
surprised.
come to the community center in general,
Yeah.
but the library in particular. We're the only ones open on Sunday,
There's
but
a lot of
Saturdays,
people who work
these
can't
are-
make it during the week, so they come in on like a Sunday.
yeah, we're busy.
So-
We're busier than most people think we
I
are.
agree with cutting $10,000, if you can take that out of supplies somewhere?
I will work to take that out of
Instead
supplies
of
and books and
cutting
not
hours.
Sunday. Yeah, again, and the board doesn't like to cut the Sunday hours either. Their preference is to. So again, I would just take the ebook budget out of next year's budget. That's
Yeah.
6,000 right there. And I could certainly try to save 4,000 in other purchases or whatnot. Again, being part of Lion, we are able to get materials from other libraries within a day or two. So I've pulled back on the nonfiction by about 40% this year, so I could continue that for next year as well. But of course, the book prices are going up, so it's
Okay,
okay.
yep.
And again, if you have any further questions or want discussion, come talk to me.
So, I was just thinking, what were the increases in past years, since we've referenced it. but
We did have hold on, I can provide this. I got it, Lisa, don't you worry.
Oh, it's sideways. Oh, nice, okay. Yeah, that spells out exactly what my increases were for this year.
I was
So let me-
thinking over the last couple of years.
There was a work paper, here we go.
Yeah, there it is, okay.
Okay. So this is like their fund balance essentially from our operating that they carried forward. So last year was, this current year it's 1,207,000. I'm sorry, 1,231,000 is the updated amount. And the prior year was 1,151 we paid out.
So 4.89% last year, 5.84%.
Yeah, it's creeping up.
previous.
And again, a lot of that is last minute health insurance costs because, we don't find out about that till the last week of June, that the increase in health insurance this year canceled everything we got last year, and we're still making it work. And I can work with the 10,000 as long as the health insurance doesn't increase 30,000 the last week of June, then I got a problem. I'd have to work with Kevin on that.
Budgeted for 9%?
Off the top of my head, I want to say 12%. I thought you asked me 12%. So it's more a matter of you and I being in touch if the health insurance skyrockets at the last minute. Because other departments, they handle it. Because we get the money, we get a stipend for you to pay for the health insurance. If it goes up, we're out.
So if you,
But if it comes in less,
it's.
we
it's
have more
coming
money
in at
left over.
9%, so if you budgeted 12% and it's 9%,
Benefits, so about.
Yeah, okay, 16,000 health insurance increase. It's spelled out there.
$1,000 in my way. The pension was moved altogether.
Right, yeah, I've taken that out of the budget.
Yep. So 50,000 anticipated moved to the general fund for the first year.
But that's already accounted for in here, okay. But the health insurance isn't, that's still in my budget. So, I can work with the 10,000, but again, if the health insurance spikes,
but it's set for 9%.
okay,
So that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, if you budgeted for 12%.
Yes, that might
Is
be the
there-
other, so if it increased by $16,000, that's a 12%, 9% is 25% of that, so 4,000, so there's the $4,000 cut. So it'd be 6,000 from supplies and the 4,000 from health insurance savings.
yeah, I could, yeah, I can, like I said, if they don't fix the ebook situation, I don't want to spend my money there anyway because it's not good use of the taxpayers' money. They're ripping us off. If they do pass that, we'll have to see what happens, but I'll be able to do a lot more with that book budget if the ebooks aren't so expensive. So,
Okay, so,
Have the vote?
ready to vote? Motion has been made and seconded to reduce the increase by 10,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? No. The motion carries.
all right, and thank you for your hard work. I mean, I know it's a lot. So I'll figure out how to make it work.
Thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate it. We do love everything that goes on there, just. Yep. Okay, so I know Jerry's still here, but I think everybody is done for the night. Unless you guys want to go
I
on.
just have one question.
Okay.
Did we skip 419? Health and welfare, which is the VNA?
We did because we wanted to do the library before leaving.
Okay.
We did Parks and Rec the other night, by the way.
We did, but I had a few more things on further reflection I wanted to revisit.
I'll be here Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
Can we do him first?
Yes, and we could do
Yeah,
Parks
no,
and Rec
first.
first if we wanted.
Just to tell you, I'll be here Wednesday anyway.
Okay,
So if you do Parks and Rec tonight, I'm still here Wednesday.
okay, all right.
So you take that for what it's worth.
Oh. Okay, so then, is everybody feeling like they want to
Yeah.
finish up on Wednesday? Thankfully, it's a very short. One of the things that we need to do on Wednesday is to approve the auditor's contract. So Kevin is going to pass something out for us to discuss, right? Did you end up printing up the?
You can take that.
You sure?
Yeah, I'll give you one.
No, at the close, I just wanted to let them know that I think
Before you
that's
leave, I gotta
pretty,
give you something.
yeah, that there's very few things on the agenda, so hopefully it won't be such a marathon as the last 2 nights. Next on the agenda is public discussion. There's no public here. Next is board comments. Anyone have anything they want to say?
I thank you for all your hard work in going through the budget as much as you did, and appreciate your putting yourself out there to make all those suggested cuts.
Thank you. It's it's no fun being the bad guy on this stuff, but trying to be equitable to all of our citizens. But thank you, and thank all of you guys for everything you're doing. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.